Call the meeting to order. Let's do roll call.
Commissioner Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Norwood,
Here.
Commissioner Siragusa,
Here.
Commissioner Roberts is absent, Commissioner Stallings is absent, Commissioner Orr,
Here.
Mayor Pinkinen.
Here. All right, thank you. Item number 2, in Commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the rescheduled regular session agenda. Okay, everybody looks good. Thank you. Item number 3, study items 3.1, discuss Randolph Mill and Overlay Project.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We got a clicker. Thank you guys for having me today. I'm going to go over real briefly the Randolph Mill and Overlay Project between Washington and 7th Street. As you guys are familiar with, we relocated the water line over the past few months, several months. It's fine, it's completed and everything. Everything currently going on right now is related to concrete work, which is on the east side of the tracks. And we'll be eventually moving that portion of work over into the downtown portion. And we're fixing to begin the actual mill and overlay portion of the work, which is what I'm here to talk about today. The overall timetable for the mill and overlay is October 3rd to the 20th. Tri-State Parade is October 2nd. And the Toucan Trot is October 23rd. So we are hoping to be in and out of there in between those two events. The downtown portions, which are actually the parts that are downtown where parking will be affected, is October 3rd through the 5th. And then the paving portion where parking will be affected downtown is October 10th to the 12th. If you guys are really good with your calendars, that is a Sunday through a Tuesday. We had the contractor come in and had a meeting with them to discuss the best time for us to do this, and we went round and round, back and forth, up and down, and we landed in the time frame in October, and we wanted to land in a time frame, excuse me, where we'll be affecting the businesses downtown the least, and that's Sunday and Monday are those days. We added Tuesday in just as kind of a safety net for us in case we're not out of there in those time frames. During these dates, there'll be work happening, of course, outside of downtown along the route as well. Through traffic during the work will always be open. The parking is what we know, that's what affects the businesses, and that's the time frame for the parking to be affected. A couple of points that I wanted to throw out there just so that we understand and we're all good. Intersections through these areas will be closed approximately 15 to 30 minutes. And that will actually be the time when the milling machine or the paving machine is passing through that. Once asphalt is laid, it needs to cure for about 15 minutes or so. So once that's done, the street will be right back open. In those time frames, the contractor will be kind of flagging and running traffic during that time frame. Portion of the concrete work downtown still needs to take place. There's a few sidewalk nodes, a few driveways that are going to be replaced, and those will be happening kind of in concurrent with the mill and overlay, and they may extend to past the 20th just a little bit, but not too much. We fully plan that all of the work will be done mid-November, and anything that is not done at that time frame will be cleaned up and will be set aside for next year after the first year, so that we are not disturbing holiday season at all. Any questions?
Just got one question. On railroad track crossings, Southern Pacific's crossing there, are they going to raise up their tracks, or are we going to have that dip in there?
On the west side?
On Randolph up here at the crossing there's a pretty good dip right now. I know if we're doing milling and overlay, we're going to be raising that up. They have plans.
On the west side, if that's where it is, then most likely. We're actually going in there, and there's a portion of railroad tracks that are in there that are off of UP's right-of-way. They're actually on our right-of-way, so we're going to go and take those out and do a full reconstruction in that area.
Okay.
So If that's where it is, I hope so, to answer your question.
Yeah, there's,
If it's on the east side, on the east side, we're really limited by the railroads right away in those areas.
Yeah, and I
mean, we've-
understood that. I know if we bring up the overlay and we bring that road up higher.
I'll check into that and if we're not, we'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
I had a quick question. Is it like approximately 4 lanes, or is it a little wider than 4 lanes on part of it? And then when does it go down to 2 lane? And then I guess my last question is, can you remind us the cost of the mill and overlay project?
Okay, the downtown portion is 4-lane with parking, which really kind of equates to 5 or 6 lane even. It's a really big area in that area. Then it goes down to a 2-lane once we get east of the tracks. And the price was about 1.5 million for it in total, and it was about 350,000 was concrete work, and whatever 1.2 comes out to be for the actual mill and overlay.
Are there any other plans for Randolph? Because I know as you get towards the west side of downtown, where that 3-way intersection is, and then on over to Van Buren, there are some pretty rough intersections in there, and some areas where it's just kind of real wavy, and it'll eat half your front end if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But are there any plans to finish that all the way to Van Buren, or what's the long-term plan for
Yeah.
Randolph?
Exactly, yeah. The long-term plan is for us to continue mill and overlaying, basically from Van Buren all the way out to, correct me, 16th? 16th, yeah, all the way out to 16th. So we're working portions of that as we move along.
Okay.
But back to the west, though.
Back to the west.
Are we going to Van Buren?
We will eventually in the future, yes. I think in
And
the
we've
next,
actually gone west of Van Buren because we're going to be going all the way out to Garland, right? Doing something at that
yeah,
intersection.
and, yeah, in super long terms, yes.
So there's a plan to go all the way to Garland eventually?
It's a very long-term plan.
That's right. Like, how far are we talking? 10-year plan, 8-year plan?
Probably longer than 5 years.
Yeah,
So 5 to 10 years. I think probably the commissioner's question is specifically, are we going to go to Van Buren at some point soon?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. That would probably be a consideration for the next year or two. I know we're going to hear a roundabout proposal tonight too, which would also be something to
I was just curious.
consider.
Yeah.
But yes, because I think that's the Broadway approach.
Yeah.
And so Broadway now is a nice road all the way from Van Buren out to University. So
Yeah,
yes, and you're right, there's some patches that are in that area past
Yeah.
Washington that are
okay,
in need of
yeah,
resurfacing.
pretty rough.
Yeah.
And then, I think Keith, you had a different railroad question, but who is responsible for the railroad tracks, keeping that smooth? Is that the railroad or is that us?
that is the railroad, yes.
Okay, because there's one on Oakwood, just north of Roop. That first railroad track there, as you go north on Oakwood there, the northbound lane is getting pretty bad. I didn't know, is that just us who, the city takes care of that, or the railroad does?
We, whenever it's within the railroad right-of-way, we send a letter basically to the owner or the railroad company
Okay.
and request that, hey, this one is really rough.
Yeah.
Please can you
Okay.
take a look at it, consider, doing something.
And then, so the railroad goes in and fixes it?
Mhm.
Okay, so, okay, maybe I'll need to fill out a C-click fix or click C, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Yep.
We can just take that one on
Well,
to notify
Why
the
don't we
railroad. Yeah.
let him do the C-click fix because it's not on the agenda tonight?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of related, but okay, you bet.
Two things.
Yes, sir.
First off, you'll be going along the skate park area there at Fifth. Is what you're doing include parking spaces in that, along that north side of the skate park, or is it just redoing that portion of the road?
It's just redoing that portion of the road at this time,
But
yes.
I know we can't do a few things that we want to do at the skate park until that part is finished, so this
Yes.
is very satisfying to hear.
Yes, yes.
Scott, for you, we were talking about the same process in 1994, 95, 96, sometime, on Randolph. So different commissions have different ideas on what to do when, and there was even a vote one time for widening a certain area between Van Buren and Cleveland, and it failed miserably, and so nothing was ever done over there, turning it from 2-lane into 4. So things changed through the years. So when you got something going, you grab it and hold on to it and get it done, because somebody else might not think that's as good an idea.
Yeah. I've never experienced too much delay on Randolph west of Van Buren. It's just rough. I mean, and really just starting west of downtown is rough. And there are some intersections that probably need to be looked at pretty soon before, because Randolph's going to, I mean, that's a main street that goes all the way through town. And
I think it's the longest street in Enid.
Yeah. And like I said, I've never run into a real delay in traffic. I don't know about the widening thing, but if we can just definitely make it
It'll take a
smooth.
lot of pressure off of, obviously, Owen Garriott and Willow. And that was the initial thought, was to do, Garriott first and then do Willow. And we've done all that. And now we're working on trying to get all that done on Randolph.
Right.
And it's good to see that we're acquiring properties and some of those things are going on. So
And I think Cleveland will help too, with Cleveland 4 lanes all the way north, and then divert some of that traffic to Willow where it's 4 lanes, so, yeah. Okay,
All right, thank you, guys.
any other questions?
Thank you. All right, item 3.2, discuss roundabout proposal for downtown Randolph.
Hello, I am Natalie Berlow with Main Street Enid. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing us to come today and do a little bit of an education session on what we believe will just be a piece of the puzzle of elevating our downtown. As we take the next step towards growing our downtown and bettering it, we are recognizing solutions to helping traffic flow more easily and to increase pedestrian safety. Today, we will be talking about roundabouts and how they can improve our district. This is just one part in our endeavors in soon creating a master plan for our downtown district, as downtown is the heart of our community and we are now seeing more visitors coming to the area. We would really like to put our best foot forward in creating the best experience possible for both our community members and our visitors. So downtown has now become the hub for events and a place for all ages to enjoy. Now we need to take it up to the next level by providing an environment in which businesses would like to locate and invest their dollars. To encourage this, we must think ahead to improving our district. So today I have with me Derek Rapp with Stantec. I think he's online up here. And then Tom Rowe, he is the owner of Settlers Brewing Company, to explain the benefits of a roundabout. And they can answer any questions you have. Both of them have extensive knowledge in this and experience in this subject. So I'm going to turn it over to, I believe, Derek.
Yes, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And I just want to let you know I am calling in from home, so hopefully there won't be too much distraction in the background. But forgive me in advance if my dogs start barking or something like that. But anyway, again, my name is Derek Rapp. I work for a company called Stantec. We're actually one of the largest engineering and architectural firms in North America. We've about 22,000 employees worldwide. A little background on myself. I have about 25 years of transportation engineering and planning experience. Began with in the public sector, working for a local municipality for about 7 years. Did a lot of working with the public and folks, decision makers like yourself, and then went into consulting for the last 18 years or so, doing a variety of planning and design work with various agencies, doing planning and design for downtowns and along with developments. So with that, I believe I'm going to share my screen, and let me do that here. Let's see. Share. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So let's see here. Oops. So again, we just wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about roundabouts. Many of you might be familiar with them, but I don't know how many specifically in your area there might be. I know that I did a little research about roundabouts in Oklahoma. I know the DOT is planning one in eastern Oklahoma. But I didn't see a whole lot of proliferation of roundabouts in Oklahoma. So I just want to take this opportunity to give you a little background on roundabouts and then some of their benefits. First of all, what is a roundabout? Some of their advantages and benefits, and then also some of the costs related to them. And then at the end, we'll have an exhibit showing a concept that we put together for the Randolph in the downtown. This actually is a roundabout that we designed a number of years ago in California. And a lot of the pictures, including the one on the cover, were roundabouts that we were involved with. So essentially, roundabout, obviously, circulatory roadway. Counterclockwise flow. And the whole concept of roundabouts is that it is to provide continuous flow through an intersection in all directions while maintaining a slower speeds. So the idea is that you get benefits without all the stops and starts of a stop sign or a signal. You allow continuous motion through the intersection, albeit at a much reduced speed. And the way you get those reduced speeds is through the deflection or the curvature of the approaches as you approach the circular intersection. And with that, with the additional curvature and adjusting the radii of those curvatures, you can get reduced speeds through the intersection, so it provides a more orderly flow of traffic through the intersection. There is an advantage to pedestrians as well, because pedestrians are also not limited by, say, a stoplight, and there's the crossings are divided by direction, so you're only crossing one half of the road at a time, and then there's a refuge in the center of the roadway to allow for pedestrians to assess whether there's gaps in traffic and then cross the other side of the intersection. And also one of the big distinctions, and this is probably one of the most important rules of the road for roundabouts, is that if you're already within the circle, you have the right of way. So people that are approaching from outside the circle have to yield to you. Not the other way around. And a lot of the learning curve for operating in roundabouts is to get that inclination of, if you're in the circle, not being sure if someone's going to yield to you. You need to be taking the right of way within the circle in order to allow for maximum operation. And that's one of the learning curves that happens with roundabouts. Some of the geometric elements that we've talked about, obviously circulatory roadway going in counterclockwise direction. These splitter islands here provide that deflection or curvature upon the entrance. And these are specially designed, as I mentioned, to achieve a certain entry speed, which is usually around 20 to 25 miles per hour. There are these what's called a truck apron, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's for larger vehicles such as trucks. There'll be a rolled curb with a concrete apron along the inside of the circle to allow for larger trucks that have off-tracking of their trailer to still navigate the roadway while still keeping a relatively narrow roadway for passenger vehicles and to maintain that slower speed. Central Island, this is this is important, not necessarily from a traffic perspective, but from a gateway or aesthetic. This provides, and I'll have a slide in the future, not too far down the presentation, that shows how cities have taken the opportunity of this grand space in the center of the circles for gateway or landscaping or public art. So there's many opportunities that this provides. And bicycles are also dealt with as a part of this design as well. Typically, bikes are, the way that the intersections are designed is for bikes to exit onto a bike path or a shared sidewalk, and then enter back in after you're in the circle. That is one way for bikes that do not feel comfortable sharing with traffic to travel through the intersection. This is really one of the key graphics and demonstrates one of the main safety benefits of conventional intersections versus roundabouts. And the conventional intersection, you can see all these turning movements happening through the intersection, and each one of these dots represents a potential conflict between opposing directions of traffic. You can see in your conventional conventional intersection that may be stop controlled or traffic light controlled, there's 32 different potential conflict points. And a lot of these are at right angles to one another. So a lot of those can be, especially on roadways that are higher speed, they can be high energy, high severity potential collisions. And so while you may not have a great deal of collisions at a signalized intersection, for example, when there is a mistake, someone runs a red light, etc., the collision tends to be much more severe. Whereas alternatively, in the roundabout alternative you can see here, because everyone is entering the intersection at a slower speed and at an angle, at a deflection angle, and not at a right angle, one, you have fewer conflict points. You've reduced the number of conflict points down to 25% of original intersection. And these tend to be more glancing angles and lower speeds, which transfers to lower energy collisions, so that the collisions that you do have tend to be fender benders rather than T-bone collisions with severe injuries. So that's a quick comparison of some of the safety benefits between those two types of intersections. Again, and the data kind of vets this out. There's been a number of nationwide studies done throughout the United States on before and after studies from a safety standpoint. And what tends to come down is, and I've actually done a number of before-after studies on our designs as well, and the numbers tend to be pretty consistent. About a third of the collisions overall are reduced, but where you really see the dramatic improvements is in the injury and fatality collisions. They come down significantly, 75 to 90%, and also pedestrian collisions as well, for much the same the reasons that I mentioned for the injury and fatality collisions. So significant reductions in collisions, and most importantly, not just all collisions, but the most severe collisions, the ones that cause injury or death. As I mentioned before, these are some clips that I took from the internet of different roundabouts that took the opportunity to use the central island as making a statement. A lot of people use this in their downtown corridors to say you've arrived to the heart of the city. And they use public art or landscaping or other monumentation that reflects the values of their community. So provides a grand opportunity for that, in addition to all of the other safety and operational benefits that it does provide. Cost. This is the one where the rubber really meets the road. The upfront costs, and this is sort of the trade-off with roundabouts. The upfront costs, as you can imagine, because of the area that roundabouts take up as opposed to a conventional intersection, the upfront costs, the capital costs, construction costs are higher than, say, a traffic signal. Many agencies, including our own California's Department of Transportation, now has us looking at benefit cost ratios for the life of projects. And when you start looking at the overall service life of an intersection and the maintenance costs and the equipment costs, like with signals, you have electrical cabinets, you have electrical costs, you have the actual computer that runs the traffic signal that needs to be replaced on regular basis, on an annual basis over 20 years. Those costs really start to add up that you don't have with a roundabout. And the other thing with roundabouts, they're not powered by electricity. They're powered by drivers and their judgment. So they aren't affected by power outages or things of that nature. And you don't have the situation where you have street crews that have to go out and place stop signs and that sort of thing. They're kind of ready to go without any additional assistance. And as I mentioned, life cycle costs can be less than conventional intersections. Now, every location needs to be evaluated on its merits, one way or the other. And it's not true universally that it always pencils out, but in a lot of cases, when you look at the economics of it, not even taking into account the safety aspects and the saved time and the saved fuel and the rest of it, you start adding up all those factors. The total cost can actually be quite a bit reduced over a conventional intersection. And so that was it for the general discussion of roundabouts. And this is a sketch that I put together for the downtown committee, just showing what might be possible at a particular location. Obviously, this would require much more in-depth study and examination of the traffic characteristics, but this was just a geometric layout of based on the existing conditions of something that could be. And so this area here that with the sort of brick hatch, that would be the truck apron that I referred to. This would be the large central island that could be some sort of gateway treatment. The other green areas would be potential recapture of asphalt or concrete for planters or other streetscape type features. And it's just a concept to kind of to get everyone familiar with how the layout could look, and it could also be applied in other locations in the downtown. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions generally about roundabouts or anything of interest to the committee.
One of the things you were comparing, the life cycle cost can be less than a traditional intersection. And I think that kind of presumes that you have a bare piece of ground and you're going to do a regular intersection or you're going to do a roundabout. The roundabout will cost a little bit more to get going, but eventually catches up. In the case where you already have established intersections with lights, with all the infrastructure there, it looks to me like it's going to take a long time to be able to break even on that kind of deal.
That is true. If you're talking about replacing an existing traffic signal, for example, that's definitely true. The other issue that you raised is assuming that you have all of the right-of-way that you need for an intersection. That's because right-of-way obviously can be expensive, both in time and in dollars.
Right.
But yes, you're absolutely right. But if you're also factoring into the societal safety benefits and emissions and time savings and the rest, depending on the location, of course, it's you can put dollars to all of those things, and a lot of agencies do that and do take into consideration that in their benefit cost discussions.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Can you pull back up that last slide that you had up?
This one here?
Yes, sir. Are there any bike trails or walking trails as far as sidewalks in there? I just can't see it. Is that part of the green or?
Yes, sorry, it's not, this wasn't super detailed, but there are crosswalks. So this break and this median right here would be an opportunity for a pedestrian to cross here and here. For example, here to here to here. Yes, and also here. This was a location as well. But again, this isn't a full-blown detailed design. This is just a picture to show how something might fit in this location. But the goal would be obviously that you had a refuge crossing at every leg for pedestrians.
Just one question. You have that up there, and you said it's a very not detailed. Even though it's not detailed, give me an estimated cost to do that particular job here.
At this intersection,
That intersection, the way you have it set up.
yeah, just the, I haven't done, honestly, I haven't done any kind of cost estimate. A lot of the costs that go into this have to do with the streetscape elements and assuming I've seen that you can probably just the curb and gutter and sidewalk, that type of thing, you're probably looking something like on the order of $700,000 or something like that.
Okay.
So just on the curb and guttering part of it?
Yes.
Well, the functional aspects of it, not necessarily the any decorative lighting or elaborate landscape or art or any of those types of things. And again, that's just an estimate. I have not put pencil to paper on anything like this. We have done much more elaborate ones that can definitely be, as part of a streetscape project that you could be easily, upwards of, double that. So.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yep. All right. Item 3.3, discuss building permit fee revision.
Yeah, Scott and Ken are going to talk about this, but I'll just preface it with, this is an effort to look at some pieces of our code, our ordinances that we think may need some revisions to help give the city more flexibility to provide better customer service. And so this is an opportunity to talk to you guys about it as we solicit more feedback. We've already gotten some feedback at least a couple times from the Northwest Builders Group. And I'm thinking we're probably going to need some more feedback from some of the trades groups. But I think it's a good proposal. It gives us some flexibility, and so I'm anxious to hear it, Scott.
You bet. Before Ken Bradley comes up here to go over the details, I just wanted to explain to you, why would we want to change our building permit fees? One of the things that we are looking at when we change anything, especially in the ordinance, one of the things that's important to me is it easy to understand? Is it simple? Are we making things more complicated than they need to be? And so those are the lens that I want to look through whenever we make an ordinance change, especially as it relates to code or building permits, things like that. And so we believe simple is better. And I believe that what you'll see Ken present tonight will fit the bill. Also, for ease of calculation, our current ordinance has a few complicated measures to try to figure out once your building exceeds a certain amount, what would my building permit fee be? And with this updated proposal, they would easily be able to take their square foot, make a calculation, and know exactly what their permit fee should be. Even on a remodel, the way that we have done remodels on our current ordinance, we need to have the valuation of what that update will be. And based on that valuation depends on what the permit fee is. And as these projects get expensive, the price of the permit fee can be very expensive. So we want to eliminate that, because one of the things that I know that you are interested in doing and we are interested in doing is infill. And so as we have businesses that want to develop and do remodels, we want to aid them by having a remodeling structure on their permit fee that will allow for that, instead of, if there have been several jobs where they've done projects ranging from $2 to $5 million, and we could see potential people coming in doing renovations and projects much more expensive than that. So we want to be there for those people and have a simple process for these fees. One of the other reasons that we want to make these changes is, right now, if you come in and want to do a project, you need to already know who your electrician's going to be, who your plumber's going to be, all of those people, your mechanical. And by separating out the trades, as Ken will explain, we can allow projects to get started sooner. A lot of times people want to get some concrete poured, maybe they want to put some steel up, but they don't know yet who their electrician is going to be. And so we want to allow the opportunity for these people to come in and get a building permit and get started on their building, and then make some of those other selections and have those tradesmen come in and pull their own permits, which is more in line with what most of the top 10 communities in Oklahoma already do. So we will reach out to a few more people. We have, as Gerald said, we've already reached out to several commercial and residential home builders and people who are in the construction business. I'd forgotten we have reached out to a plumber, an electrician, and a mechanical contractor as well, and talk to them. But we'll probably solicit feedback for another week, and we would, after this presentation, we'd like to solicit feedback, and then maybe next week bring you an ordinance revision in a study session. And if you're pleased with that, then maybe the next week after that, the next council meeting after that, we bring an ordinance change that will be on the table. So I think with that, I'll get Ken Bradley up here, and he can run through what these changes would look like. Ken?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. There it is. So Scott kind of covered the why a little bit. Why are we doing this? We want to make it easier for our contractors. We want to be able to let contractors get started sooner, more efficiently, get our permits out the door quicker. We hate holding up projects. I have one right now that I'm waiting on a plumbing contractor. She doesn't know who she's going to use yet. We technically cannot issue the permit right now under the current ordinance and let her get started. She has a ton of structural stuff to do on that project that she could be started on right now and pick a plumber out in 2, 3, 4 weeks and still be okay. That's part of why we want to separate things out, and we want to make it easier. I have contractors that call me constantly saying, what's my permit fee going to be? I'm doing a $5 million project. Okay, your project's $22,000 for your permit under this current fee schedule. Under our proposed fee schedule, and when I get into it, $2,200. That's a big difference, and it's a lot better. These are your projects that are going to go in, say if we have someone go in, Bradwood's is that, or the old Kmart building, that other end of that mall, that piece gets done. Probably about a $2 million project if someone comes in there and finishes that out. $12,000 roughly. versus under the new fee schedule, $1,200. So this is going to give us that flexibility and ease to be able to do these projects and get infill development in places where we want it. Like Scott said, we've talked to local contractors, we've talked to the home builders, we've talked to commercial contractors. We've kind of been working on this, I have, for about 1.5 years now, doing my due diligence, finding, reading. I've read fee schedules from 20 towns. I'm a former mechanical and electrical contractor. This is what I'm used to. I'm not used to having to wait on my permit to be pulled by the building contractor. I go in, I hand you my license, I pull my own permit, I get started on work usually the same day or a few days later. This brings us more in line with that of what Norman, Moore, Oklahoma City, Stillwater, all those towns do. So first we'll talk about building permit fees. We've got residential and commercial building permit fees. Everything's broke down by square footage. You want to do a new construction, you're going to come in, it's 10 cents a square foot for a house. You want to do it for commercial, 14 cents a square foot, and we did add the additional, if it's over 10,000 square feet, it's 1 cent for each additional square feet. You get into a larger project that's over 10,000 square feet and you're still charging that 14 cents a square foot, we're in the same boat we're in now. This allows us that flexibility to make our permits cheaper. It's going to cost my guys the same amount of money if we go out under the old fee schedule or the new fee schedule. This gets our costs down to where we're not being a little too astronomical on these remodels especially.
Could you talk just a little bit louder?
Yeah.
You're kind of fading off on me when you get soft. Thanks.
So this will allow us to be a little more flexible. It'll bring all of our fees in line to the same fee schedule, where right now our new construction fees, we do it based off of square footage. If it's $4.80 for the first so many square feet, then $2 for each square foot over. And then you go up to the next, once you get to a certain square footage, you go up to the next category. Then you have to figure that again. And I even have some of our big local commercial contractors that call and go, what is my permit fee? What's it gonna be? Wish it was easier. So this helps us get us in that. It gets all the fees on the same scale. New construction, addition, remodels, they're all the same price based on your square footage. If you're doing a house remodel for 250 square foot, you're only getting charged for 250 square foot of remodel work, which is usually going to be a minimum permit fee of $35. Under the current fee schedule, you're going to do it based off the value, and it could be anywhere from $300 to $400, depending on, I've seen bathroom remodels that are pretty expensive. That gets us in that area. Our other fees go up a little bit too. Roofing, demolition, storm shelters, they all go up a little bit. Roofing is a little bit more on commercial and on demolition and things like that because they take a lot more. A roof on a house is just a tiny little permit. A roof on a commercial building is a lot of work. You're having to do a lot of different things. Same with demolitions, storm shelters, fences, and everything else. Electrical, we get into the same area. Everything's based on square footage. Again, residential is cheaper than commercial because we want new houses to be cheaper. What we've done here is we've done it on a 5 cents a square foot on new construction, addition and remodel on houses, and a 7 square foot on commercial. Our minor wiring fees, everything on residential, 35, 35, 35, and 35, those are all the same relatively. Those did not change. On our other side of that, they go up to $50 because it takes a lot longer to do a commercial inspection than a residential inspection. Usually we're out there a lot longer than we are for something small. Temporary services, those are just usually your temporary poles that you put up to get service started. Plumbing, that got smaller on me. New construction is the same price on these. Our fees are pretty much the same for all of our trades, price-wise, on our square footage. We try and keep everything simple. And everything else is, if it's additional, if it's over 10,000 square foot, it goes down to 1 cent a square foot. It's the same way on these as well. Mechanical kind of stays the same, change-outs, remodels, minor mechanical. We kept this exactly the same all the way across the board because it makes it simple. And simple makes things better. It makes it more consistent, and it makes it easier for our contractors to come in and pull permits. It makes it easier on us to get them out quicker too because we know what the fee is going to be as soon as you walk in the door. We're not having to do anything fancy and figure, oh, you're doing a change-out? $35. Not, what's the value? That gets us into our existing versus proposed. Currently, like I said, we have to wait for contractors. The soccer complex was one of them. Scott came and talked to me about it luckily we got all the bid opening done the day the permit was ready. So we were luckily able to go out the door at the same time. If they would have taken another 2 weeks, we would have been trying to figure out how to get the groundwork going so that they could get that soccer complex going. Remodels are extremely expensive. Then on our proposed fees, we can issue the building permit as soon as we're complete with review. We do our plan review, that includes your mechanical, plumbing, electrical review. It goes out the door. Your plumbers just come in and pull the permit when they're ready, when you've awarded it. You may not pick out the plumber in your house until you're ready for them to start. Plumbers are booked up right now. You may change it between now and then. I know our mechanical guys, I spoke with one the other day, he's booked out 6 weeks. So this allows flexibility and you're able to pick out who you want when the time comes. It allows us to balance project cost for customers. So right now what we've got two extremes. We've got permit fees all the way up here on our remodels. They're expensive as can be. We're higher than anybody I've seen in a long time. We've got our building permit fees who are a little bit lower. This allows us to level it out where we're not penalizing you for doing a remodel, for infill development, and get everything back on the same track. Anybody got any questions?
One question. On the additional alterations, is the price going to be the same per square footage as far as new construction and remodel?
Yes.
Okay. That'll be awesome. Personally, Gerald, Scott, Ken, thank you. And I'm pretty sure I can speak for every contractor in Enid. Man, this will make a world of a difference. Me and Gerald, we talked about this a couple of years ago. Things take time, but this is great. I'm dealing with a situation on this now, so I'm all for it.
Okay, one other thing, when you said additional alteration, you're talking 5 cents per square foot. That's the total amount of extra addition,
Yes.
not the whole.
No, so if you're adding onto this room, and this is the existing line of the room, we're not talking about this half too, we're just talking about the half you're adding on.
That you're adding on, that is.
Not the
5
existing
cents
portion,
square
yes.
foot.
That helps us keep the cost down again.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yes.
Thank you.
It sounds like you're reducing cost by tenfold.
A lot.
Especially on our remodels, yes.
Okay. So how much is the budget going to suffer because we're not doing that?
I thought that question might come up, and I've been thinking about my answer, and I've been telling folks for a while, yeah, it's going to suffer. I don't know how much. We can figure that out. But what's priceless to me, and I think to you guys, is having a more user-friendly, customer-friendly process. But we owe that. We still want to get some more feedback, so I'm glad to hear those words from you, Commissioner Norwood. We have some more people I think we want to talk to, and I didn't make the last meeting of the builders, but I definitely want to encourage them because I would love to have some contractors in the audience to say, yes, this is a good thing. And so we're working on that kind of feedback, and to get them to come to the meeting when we finally bring an ordinance for you to consider, because we think that'll make us all feel more comfortable that we're doing something that's taking us in the right direction. So I don't have the answer for you tonight, but we will work on that.
No, and I'm all for doing that and making it fair for the contractors, because maybe we've been unfairly high in the past.
We have.
The reason I'm asking is because, okay, we need to figure out a way to come up with $2 million more, if that's the number, because our budget's going to go down by, our income's going
I
to.
don't think it'll go down by $2 million.
Yeah, and it's a hypothetical.
I know that
I just want to make sure.
I've talked to Jennifer on this several times about what our permitting, because I have to do a report every so often to the state and to national for permitting fees.
Yeah.
Usually our permitting revenue is only about $120,000 a year.
I was going to say, I'm comfortable enough with our finances that if we do anything that messes with sales tax or water revenue, that's when we really need to be paying attention. But stuff like this is,
Okay.
in the scheme of things, I'm not saying it's not a consideration, but towards heading towards what we want, I think this will end up being very well worth whatever.
In fact, we
trade-off
may
is.
end up making money because people will decide to do building
I
that
was
they
going
wouldn't
to
have
say,
done.
it may suffer right at the gate, but then it would encourage
Investment.
investments in new homes and bringing new companies here. I think that it would pay for itself later on.
I think it'd also benefit the east side of town with bringing in business there, renovation stuff and everything else, because
Okay.
a lot of the permit fees is what I've been hearing a lot of businesses complaining about, as far as having to redo a building and the cost of it.
There's a couple of examples I want to highlight where this will formalize what we actually already did. Typically, like Ken was saying, on a building permit, we wait till all the boxes are checked. Sometimes people are ready to go on certain things, just like you said, and we had an example of that recently. So we kind of pioneered some flexibility, and I think it worked really well, and this will help formalize that for us. And then there was another example of a renovation coming up, I think in an apartment complex, that I was shocked by how high you told me the building permit fee was going to be. So this makes it more reasonable. And then I think you've also done the research. We'll follow up. I think we have a comparison to some cities that we can pass out that shows we're more in line with some of those other cities by making some of these changes. So we think it's a positive change. We want to do some more outreach and work on it, but we plan to bring it back to you at some point in the near future.
Okay, good. I got a couple questions for you. So I'm going through these permit fees. So are these, let's just say, water heater, $35. Is that what it is now, or is that an increase?
It's $34.50. It's about a 50-cent increase.
Okay. Okay, so let me ask you. I've heard stories on this at least a half dozen times since I've been up here, but I'm curious. At least what I'm hearing is it's disappointing. And so, in fact, one of these situations is my own. I had a water heater put in at a rental house, and I hired a licensed plumber. I didn't even know there was a permit required to replace a water heater. And so he comes to me and gives me the bill and says, oh, by the way, the city stopped by, you owe another $35. And I'm like, okay. And all you guys did was come out, looked in the water closet for 3 seconds. Yep, it's good. And I got to pay $35 for that?
Typically what we're doing is we're looking at high-low vents. High-low vents.
Typically we're what?
High-low vents, they're vents that come down. They actually allow carbon monoxide not to be inside your house. That's the first thing they're looking at. Typically you can see those really quickly.
And we're charging people $35 for that.
You're not just looking at that. You're actually paying because we have someone trained that's licensed to do that. We have a former plumber that comes out and looks at that.
Ken, let me jump in.
So you guys stop over, you're there less than probably 3 minutes total by the time you look in the water closet for 5 seconds. And then we're charging people $35 for that? I mean, I don't understand.
That's a lot cheaper than most cities.
What we can do is we can make those fees anything we want them to be.
I think some things like that need to be reduced. And then while I'm on the same subject here, what do we consider like a minor wiring or a minor plumbing?
Anything small.
What's that?
So technically by state law,
Putting in a new faucet?
technically, yes, you're supposed to hire a licensed plumber to change out faucets.
Okay, so I'm gonna hire a plumber for 80 or 90 bucks an hour. And then on top of that, I'm gonna pay almost 30% for a permit. I don't get it. That doesn't add up to me. I mean, why are we charging people potentially, if the plumber's or the electrician's only out there for an hour at 75, 80, 90 bucks an hour, why are we charging $35 for a fee to come out and have them look at that? Does that make any sense to anybody?
We can charge whatever we want to charge. Whatever you tell us to
Okay.
charge, we can charge.
Yeah,
and-
well, I would like to see those reduced, especially for the simple stuff. Does that make any sense to anybody?
Well,
If I'm gonna hire a plumber or an electrician to come out?
I'd like to add in, you're talking about having a licensed
Yes, that's included as well.
person. Now, doesn't our licensed electrical contractors or plumbers and everything else have to prove their licenses in order to have a license here in the city of Enid?
Yes.
So why are we charging a fee if a licensed person is putting that item in when they can do the inspection?
I can answer
with their
that, Ken.
license?
Let me answer that, Ken. The reason we're doing that is to try and cover a portion of personnel time, truck time, gas, but we can make that fee whatever we think it needs to be, so.
I understand what you're saying, Joe.
We do that.
But what I'm saying is, I can understand if I personally put the stuff in that I need to get a license to put my own stuff in. I was a licensed plumber in New York. I know plumbing codes. I know how to do sewer and drain. I can understand me paying for that since I'm not licensed here in the town. But if we have a licensed contractor going in and doing the work, the certification is their license, that they're doing the job properly.
I think one of the ideas behind that too, Commissioner, is we get audited as a city. We have accountants that are licensed that can do the work, but when we have an audit, we need a third-party person to come in and verify the work. I think when it comes to state code, to the state laws, and the reason for a code department is to have a third party verify that that contractor is not cheating our residents and not doing something unsafe for our residents. And I believe that to be the function of our code department, is to ensure the safety of our residents, that our contractors aren't going to be doing something unsafe in their homes. And so that's why the state requires, and the state has certain laws that we adopt into our own code to inspect some of those projects.
And I can speak
So
to that
are
as a.
these, so are these licensed folks required to go through yearly training or anything for state updates or national updates or local?
Yes,
Okay.
I've been through it. It is a CEU class where you sit there and they go over what code changes there are. There's no training. It is literally, this is what has changed. Have a nice day. It's an 8-hour class once a year. I've been through it several times.
Okay. And I'm assuming that there's a liability if the contractor comes out there and doesn't do something up to code and the house starts on fire or gets flooded, that they are going to hold a certain amount of responsibility if it doesn't, if it was not done correctly. Am I correct on that?
The first question is going to be, was it inspected? The first question the insurance company is going to ask is, did you pull a permit and was it inspected? If those things were not met, then the contractor did not do their due diligence.
Okay.
At that point, then they did not follow what's required under the National Electric Code, for example, for an electrician, because you're required to get those inspections. Part of the problem is, and I can give you an example of, we went to a house. They had a licensed plumber, they had a licensed electrician. The licensed plumber did not install anything properly. The licensed electrician left a panel box cover laying in the bedroom with children, cover off, wires hanging out of the box. These are licensed people.
Okay.
Not everybody,
So do we hold them responsible?
we make them come back in that day and fix it.
That's all we do?
We make them fix it. Now, we can take it before a board and revoke their license.
There's no fine for them or anything
We
like
can
that?
fine them, but it's doing work without a permit, doing work in a non-business-like manner. Usually, we turn them over to the state. The state can fine them up to $500 the first time. That has more weight than our fines do typically, and that's what we usually do.
Okay, well, we're getting a little bit deeper than I wanted to get. My main point is, I think we're really kind of sticking it to the common folk who are on a budget who need to get a faucet replaced. If they actually even comply, I mean, $35 for an hour of a plumber's time is too much. And so for some of this minor stuff, I mean, it's just, that's too much.
We'll definitely look at the fees. We're definitely going to have some more outreach with our plumbers and our electricians, our trades folks, because we want them to, we want to hear their feedback. We want their buy-in. So, but I hear what you're saying, Commissioner. We will definitely look at those fees. This is not the final, we don't even have it. in the
Absolutely.
final
I just want to make sure these things are discussed and looked at before we make it final.
You bet.
Because as is, I don't think I could support that as is.
We will make sure we address those specifically the next time we come back in study
Thanks, Jeff.
session.
Thanks.
And I think, other than the revisement of the fees, this is great. I mean, this is really going to improve construction industry 100%. I mean, this is a total turnaround in the right direction, so. And also, Mayor, to answer your question, I look at it like this: there's many ways to make change for $1. So, you know, we're not going to lose.
All right.
No way.
Thank you. All right. That's all we have for now. We're going to adjourn and we'll reconvene at 6:30.